Hey, Heidi ho there, neighbor. We are going to have an interesting conversation this morning. Why? Because what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to breed nightcrawlers. Yes, you want to breed them. I'm not talking about a mass amount of nightcrawlers to where you can have worm castings. I'm talking about breeding them. Okay, making babies and having more night crawlers. And why? Because you're going to have a happier, healthier night crawler doing it naturally. Uh, I went downstairs, and of course I I did this one the other day, and I only put a couple. I'm going to say maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen night crawlers in this bin. And when I made this the other day, and so I went downstairs, went into my other nightcrawler bucket, and because I'm going to add more in here, I'm going to have you want a nice big tub in order for to breed successfully. Excuse me. You will want a nice big tub. You're going to want to put a lot of material, coarse garden soil, peat moss, of sand, and all that stuff like I showed you in my previous videos with your night crawlers. Okay, I have this up here because I want to watch it, instead of running up and down the steps. I want to keep an eye on this for a couple days here, um, and see how the worms are reacting and such, and at night if they're coming up at night, instead of running down the basement and all that, all that horse crap. I got them right here. So anyways, and of course, I got straw and stuff on here. And what I'm going to do is I got about, I'm going to say about 3 or 4 dozen night crawlers that I got from down there that I can successfully breed in this container. So let's say I have 2 dozen in here already. And say 4 dozen in here. That's 6 dozen night crawlers in this bin. Okay. Now, if you were doing it for worm castings, you'd have, 500 to 1,000 night crawlers in here. I don't want that. Okay. For worm castings, they're just going to eat up everything, of course they poop it all out, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, you have worm castings. Here, I am breeding them. Okay, night crawlers you got to remember, night crawlers need room. Okay, they love to travel, they like to burrow, and they like to go through the soil. Okay, out in nature, if you look at night crawlers out in nature, you don't go out in the woods and grab a handful and here there's just a big old clump of night crawlers. That's just not going to happen. Night crawlers aren't that way. Night crawlers want to be by themselves. Okay, they will find a mate. Don't worry about that. They will always find a mate if they need one. Yeah, it's not natural for night crawlers. I mean, they will breed to a point in if you're doing it for worm castings and such. Okay, but not if you're breeding them. Breeding them, you want to have less night crawlers. Actually, I could just leave 1 dozen or 2 dozen in here and I would be good. But successfully, I could put 6 or 7 dozen in here and still be good. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have about 6 dozen, I would say, in this bucket, in my breeding. I'm going to call this my breeding container. For the simple reason is I have night crawlers down there that I keep and everything, and of course I have my worms, and of course if you're gonna breed night crawlers, you'll need more tubs. But here I'm breeding them. That's all I'm doing is breeding night crawlers. Um, Out in the garden, the night crawlers now, if you don't use any kind of chemical fertilizers that kill your worms and your night crawlers, out in the garden you don't grab a big pile of them. You actually got to find them. But out there, they're doing their all natural thing anyways. They're pooping out there. They're making worm castings. They're eating up the rotted vegetable material, weeds, leaves, all that stuff. Okay, well, we're going to be breeding here. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, went downstairs and I got, I don't know, I'm going to say three or four dozen night crawlers. I don't know. I really didn't sit there and count them, but I'm going to push this away and see, they eat this all. They're going to eat all this leaves and broken down grass and such, and I'm going to just dump these. Look at these. Now, I'm going to show you now how nice and healthy these night crawlers are here. I use these bubblegum things for all my worm stuff downstairs because they work great. Got a little handle on there, look at that, in case I need them. Now look at these night crawlers. They are some nice, healthy, fat night crawlers. Look at these. I'm impressed. It doesn't take much to, I mean, it takes a lot to impress me, but when I see myself breeding night crawlers like this down in my own basement, I can say, you know, I've done something right. Look at that. Those are nice, healthy, happy night crawlers. Look at the size of these things. Some of these are just big and fat. Look at that. Oh, I can't, look at this. Well, look how nice and healthy them are. You know. I'm going to spread these out, and there. Look at that. No. Look at the size of this night crawler. That's got to be a foot long. At least a foot. And I grow these all natural in here. Now that I have leaves and grass, I got all my stuff baked up for the winter, and they're going to be down in the, and they're going to be in the woods. What do they eat in the woods? They eat dying material, leaves, bark, weeds. It's all decomposing. And that's exactly what they're eating here. I have leaves, grass, weeds. There's some grass, of course leaves. The straw decomposes, and there you have it, people. Now I'm gonna keep an eye on these for the next couple days. The ground is nice and moist. It's not over wet. I might want to throw some more straw on here. I'll probably do that later. But now I'm going to leave the cover off of here. I'm going to leave the cover off because the worms really don't like the light. And I'm going to leave the cover off. I'm going to leave the light on so they can burrow down and into their new home. Like I said, I got I'm going to say about 6 dozen night crawlers in here, which is going to work just perfectly fine for breeding. Okay? It's going to work perfect for breeding. I am not into worm castings or anything like that, but some people are, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know, if you're selling worm castings and such, but I'm not really into worm castings. I'm more interested in breeding the night crawler itself. I get all my natural worm castings out in the garden. And That's just the way it is. So, with that in mind, hey, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to give me a jingle. Subscribe to my channel. Hey, I'll teach you more about breeding night crawlers, plus earthworms. Hey, you all take care. Bye-bye then.